There you go. Now, did you catch prevenient grace? Okay, let me go a little bit later in the this Beethoven-like symphony, and it changes a little bit.
To think of him as a kind of malevolent or contemptible demiurge, and to hate him, and to deny him worship, and to seek a better.
Now there's a female voice that isn't screaming, and if it was balanced so you could hear her, you could actually understand what she was saying, but it's specifically balanced so that you can't hear her. And if you couldn't Google the lyrics, who would know? Who would know? But that's the song. And so I'm like, what? And so I brought up the lyrics because, I Googled it, and so, one of the things was lyrics, which... So here are the lyrics for Dear John Piper. John Piper wants to put me away because I believe in possibilities, and that's not okay. He tells me you've got to draw horns on your picture of God. Deliciously capricious and vicious, don't you spare them the rod. And then the chorus, I guess, throughout this is this. No fate but what we make, corporately predestined and drawn by prevenient grace. So, you catch the two there? Now, I'll finish the other ones up here, but it'll help you to understand better, and helped me to understand better, that a gentleman on Twitter, not very long ago, a fellow by the name of Hutch, MDH _ Jr. on Twitter, it's actually 54 minutes ago, dropped me a link to an interview with the lyricist of Dear John Piper. It was on Ecclesium. It's one of these blogs. Designers, please, why do you put text in light gray on white on a font of about 10? Do you not want someone to read it? It was one of those things. I had to select the text, copy it into text edit, and select black. What a thought to be able to read it. Anyways, it is a interview from February of 2016 between Aaron Ross and the gentleman who wrote this particular song. And it explained a lot, because right toward the beginning, and again, now I'm having to read the blog, and it's like, he says, then I kind of stumbled into reading and studying theology a couple of albums in, just because someone handed me a copy of a book by Greg Boyd. He as a thinker was really interesting to me. The other way he polished out some of his ideas in turn made me jump from him to other authors that were influential, folks in the Mennonite tradition, John Howard Yoder, and stuff like that. All right, so we've got Boyd, the open theist inclusivist, who is a primary influence here, which will become rather clear as we continue with the lyrics here, but certainly you get there the corporately predestined and drawn by prevenient grace stuff. God goes strolling through the nursery playing duck, duck, goose, appointing babies for destruction, and they just can't refuse. Poor baby. Sovereign, all-controlling God who pushed over man, you set the table for our failure, you put the fruit in our hands. It must be lonely when you sort it all out, the sheep from goats, The listing boat of all these questions and doubts, someone must rise and swell and eclipse the moon, like so many loathsome spiders skittering to their doom. And then our wonderful chorus.
Wait a minute, there was a chorus in there?
No, yeah. No fate but what we make, corporately predestined and drawn by prevenient grace. No fate but what we make, no divine hand that's behind genocide, no good behind rape. Hail the sovereign Lord who turns the world like a toy. He chooses suffering for children, their agony brings him joy. And then, I can't figure it out from listening to it, but there's a parenthesis, but only sort of, parenthesis closed, all powerful. So I have a feeling that the but only sort of is actually modifying the all powerful, not the other, not what came before it. But only sort of all powerful, so strong he sends molesters to children. All that he does is true and is good, and no one can resist him. Ever all controlling, who sends earthquakes and famine, the author of suffering and death, who can understand him? It's best to shut your mouth and hope for the best, because even when you catch the worst, it's still kind of like the best. And then, evidently, this is the quote from David Bentley, who is Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, that I guess the woman was reading in the song. If indeed there were a God whose true nature, whose justice or sovereignty, were revealed in the death of a child, or the dereliction of a soul, or a predestined hell, then it would be no great transgression to think of him as a kind of malevolent or contemptible demiurge, and to hate him and to deny him worship, and to seek a better God than he. So there you go. As I've always said, theology matters. And the first thought across my mind when I read this, aside from the fact that here is where here is where you see the destructive influence of a Gregory Boyd, of the emergent movement, Brian Zahnd, even classical Arminians. I still have in my feed a certain Arminian. It just drives me nuts to read him, because he's just liberal enough to be able to